Ratios, rates, and unit rates. We always start off with our vocabulary in all these videos, so the first one is ratio. What is a ratio? It's a comparison of two quantities by division, or a fraction. That's how we express our ratios in middle school. So you can compare anything, boys to girls, boys to total, students to teachers. You can compare any two things and you set it up in a fraction because a fraction means division. What is a rate? It is a ratio, but it's a specific ratio. It has two different units. Some of our most common rates are miles per hour or miles per gallon. You've probably heard of both of those types of rates before. A unit rate. A unit rate is a rate, which means it's also a ratio. It is a rate with a denominator of 1. For example, if you can buy a dozen roses for $19.99, the unit rate is how much is it for one rose. Simple enough. And you would divide to determine how much it is for one rose. Better buy. What does better buy mean? Well, when we talk about a better buy, it's usually referring to the cheapest or the least unit rate. So, for example, back to our example up here, if you have a dozen roses for $19.99, or you have a choice of 2 dozen roses for $36.99, which one has a better buy? Well, let's take a look. $19.99 divided by 12, you end up paying $1.66, or rounded $1.67 per rose. And over here, $36.99 divided by your 24 roses, because that's 2 dozen, you end up paying $1.54 per rose. And so if you're trying to find the cheapest one, the 2 dozen roses is a better buy because it's only $1.54 per rose versus the $1.67 per rose. So when you're comparing items, you always want to compare it to their unit rate. Okay, and here are some common unit rates. We've already talked about a couple of them, but price per pound, the unit price, you want to take your price and divide it by pounds to figure out how much it is for 1 pound. Miles per hour, you could have heard that as referred to as your average speed. Dollars per hour, how many dollars you make per hour is your hourly wage. Miles per hour, that's when they're trying to sell you a car, they always tell you about what great gas mileage it gets. That's miles per hour. Or, sorry, not miles per hour. Oops, that's a typo. It should be gallons per hour, guys. Gallons per hour. To solve these types of problems, the best way to show you is to just give you some examples. So here we go. Walmart is having a school supplies special. They are selling 3 binders for $12.15. How much for 1 binder? Well, let's determine what we are comparing. We've got binders and money. So if you can see, I've got my fractions set up here. I'm going to compare binders to money. So your binders always go on top and your money number always goes on bottom. I've got 3 binders for $12.15. I want to know the cost of 1 binder. So binder, here's cost. This is the cost I'm missing. So you cross multiply 3x, and then 12.15 times 1 is 12.15. And then divide both sides by 3 to get the x all by itself. There's your equations. 12.15 divided by 3 is $4.05 each. But sometimes, you know, guys, they don't ask you for the final answer. Sometimes they'll ask you for the equation to be set up, which proportion will solve the equation. So it's not always about final answers. Sometimes it's about process. Here we go. If a 5-gallon bucket was placed under a roof leak, it fills at a rate, there's a key word there, of 0.25 gallons per minute. How long before the bucket is half full? So 2 things that we're comparing gallons to minutes. So over here I've got my fraction, my ratio set up. I'm comparing gallons to minute. And if you'll notice in the question, it said half full. So this 5 gallons up here, while it's important to know how big the bucket is, we only want it half full. So I'm only comparing 2.5 gallons. And here's the rate I was given at first, 0.25 gallons for 1 minute, gallons over minutes. So I've got my proportion set up. 2.5 times 1 is 2.5. 0.25 times x is 0.25x. And guys, got a whole lot of numbers that look very, very similar here. 2.5 divided by 0.25. These decimals are very important. So to get this x by itself, I've got to divide by 0.25. And 2.5 divided by 0.25 is done over here. Can't have a decimal on the outside of your bracket, so you shift it 2 spaces to the right. Shift this one 2 spaces to the right. You got to fill in that place with a 0. 25 will go into 25 1 time. 25 will go into 0 0 times. So it takes 10 minutes to fill up half of the bucket. Okay, here we go. Last example. Which items have the same unit cost? Unit cost is very important. Unit means 1, so which one of these items costs the same for 1? And we've got 4 different items here. 24 pencils for $1.20, 3 scissors for $2.40, 3 rulers for $1, or 10 cookies for 50 cents. So these are all division problems, all 4 of them, and we have to divide all of these out to see what is the unit cost. So for pencils over here, $1.20 divided by 24 pencils. 24 won't go into 12, so you got to hold your place with a 0. Your pencils are 5 cents a piece. And if you want to check your division, take your answer, 0.05, multiply it by 24, make sure you get $1.20. Scissors, $2.40 divided by 3 pair of scissors is 80 cents a piece. Rulers, 3 for $1, so $1 divided by 3 is 0.33 cents a piece. Cookies, 50 cents divided by our 10 cookies, and we get 5 cents a cookie. So if you'll tell, cookies and pencils have the same unit cost. And we will do a lot of problems like this where we have to compare unit costs. Okay, and finally your summary. We'll do that in class tomorrow.